Welcome to 2 Cents Wanted, and today's video is bestowing schrifts to the schriftless. The poll to decide if this video would come out first or the fixing video was very close. For over 200 votes, it was pretty much 50-50, but ultimately this one came out on top. The next video will be fixing the Arrancar arc, the first third of the arc, which is the invasion arc, so be on the lookout for that. Remember to please like and subscribe, guys. I am only 60 subs away from the last time I checked, and only got one thing to say, that 1K mark.
See you soon, boy.
I decided on these schrifts by doing two things. One, I looked at the Quincy in question and based their power on the first word or characteristic that popped into my head. I went through dozens of powers and abilities that remotely correlated to them and then gave them that ability. I then used the character's other defining traits to break down the specifics, like the hows and limitations of the abilities. I don't believe everyone should have an overpowered shrift. I think the shrift should correlate to the person and their strength. So here I am bestowing schrifts to the shriftless Quincy. Starting off with Ryuken, we have D-Diagnosis. The Diagnosis has the ability to examine an object, ability, or an event, and to see its weak points, essentially giving him, Ryuken, the ability to see the best route to take at any observed moment or to see faults in objects. For example, activating this ability, Ryuken could see weak points like injuries, disruptions in spirit energy, and potential counters to techniques. Powerful armor becomes all too easy to break because he could see the faults in their design. Potential strategies are foiled at their climax because he can see where it can all fail. If anyone knows Star Wars, think Shatterpoint. Or if you know the Fate series, think the Instinct skill. I personally believe the Ishidas are born innately to counter Yuha, so I think their letters would manifest in a way to do that. A practical application of the ability versus Yuha would be when Ryuken activates it against the Almighty. Ryuken's eyes would show him what Yuha is going to do with the Almighty, allowing Ryuken to counter it. But this ability is limited by Ryuken's own ability to affect things. Just because he sees a weakness doesn't mean he can do anything about it, and these openings or faults could disappear as quickly as they appear. Ryuken must see whatever it is. Anything obscuring his vision will stop the diagnosis. If an object is too big in scale in comparison to him, he wouldn't be able to see its faults. This concept clearly comes from Ryuken being a doctor, but also because the attributes he displays as a person. Ryuken is calm even in serious situations. He's always analyzing, studying, and taking precautions while not being afraid to point out faults in others. I think this suits him perfectly. It would allow him to excel in his medical profession as well, giving him some daily applicable use. Moving on, we have Soken Ishida, and his letter is E, the Empath. This allows Soken to read the feelings of anyone, as well as learn what is causing those feelings within a 3 kilometer or 1.8 mile radius. He can control the range to focus on one person or multiple people within his space. So basically heart and mind reading. This will allow him to use his diplomatic skills to the utmost, mending the division between Quincy and Soul Reaper like he wants to. But in battle, it would give him a keen level of battle awareness and a weak form of precognition that would never really allow him to be caught off guard once activated. Soken often talks about protecting people and knowing one's own heart and the hearts of others. He also has a quote about how Quincy's fire their arrows from their hearts in a metaphorical sense, so I think this fell right in line with that. It's extremely useful and true to Soken's character, but not over the top or broken. Anyone with strong long-range capabilities could attack this shrift outside its effective range, or anyone with deceptive emotions, i.e. psychopaths, would give Soken an issue or a difficult time due to their lack of emotion and general lack of malice. Moving on, we have the mother of Ichigo Kurosaki and all of Bleach herself, Masaki Kurosaki, and her letter is R, the Redirect. This shrift allows Masaki to designate 2 points, and any interactions between them will always repel each other. Masaki does this by giving each point a positive or negative charge that correlates to each other. If 2 positive charges interact, their forces are directed against each other. This creates a repellent force. The same occurs with 2 negative charges because their respective forces also act in opposite directions. She can turn this off and on at will or change the charges. This includes making one positive and one negative, causing them to attract. A scenario of how this would work is, let's say there's a fight going on and an Arrancar catches Ichigo off guard and fires a Sarah at him. Masaki could cause the attack to go around or redirect off of Ichigo by giving the Arrancar and his spirit energy a negative charge and Ichigo a negative charge. Let's say Ichigo then turns and fires a Getsuga back. She could reverse one of their charges, causing it to follow or attract to the hollow. The strength of the attraction is affected by distance, however. She can use this ability on herself as well. Now, it isn't a perfect defense. If the opponent is fast enough to time their attack before the repulsive charge is applied or after it's turned off, then it can get around it, or if they themselves could affect the charge. I think this works as an ability for Masaki because she is a protector. We see this when she rushes to help Isshin despite the risk and consequences from both the Quincy and Soul Reapers. She isn't just a shield though, Masaki can fight, so I thought an ability that allows her to play with these two aspects was perfect for her. I almost gave her a simple barrier ability because Isshin points out that even as Blut goes, Masaki was naturally good at using it and it was strong, but Blut on Haben already exists, so I imagine giving her a simple barrier wouldn't really make too much sense. There are other hypothetical applications to the redirect ability. I wonder if you folks can guess what those are. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Moving on, we have Katagiri Ishida. Her letter is S, the shift. The shift allows her to switch spots with anything of similar mass or smaller in mass within her eyesight. She is also allowed one mark, which is called a fallback, that allows her to teleport to that spot marked. It can be a person, place, or thing. She can change the location of the mark, but is only allowed one at a time, and once she uses it, the mark disappears and she'd have to reapply it. The reapplication takes a considerable amount of time. She can pull someone with her, but the mass limitation applies as well. She can't switch places while holding someone else. The greater the distance, the more energy it requires. I feel like this shrift works well with Katagiri's position and personality. She works shifts as the housemaid when she was younger. She is a Gemished Quincy, who generally are expected to protect the Echt Quincy. So switching places with them to protect them falls in line with that, more specifically, Ryuken. And the singular fallback ability would allow her to protect Ryuken or Uryu if needed, if falling back to, let's say, their house, if they were in a completely different area. This ability could definitely be more broken, but Katagiri isn't noted to be powerful at all, so I didn't think her shrift should be overpowered, but it has great utility. Karin Kurosaki, and her letter is M, the Maximize. Karin, by making physical contact, could maximize something of her choosing. Unlike simple augmentation abilities, this power does not go above a certain limit. It has a ceiling. You can change this ceiling, however, through training. It just enhances something to its maximum level. It can apply to properties, attributes, and other kinds of magnitudes as well. This mainly works on aspects such as powers, properties, and attributes. For example, let's say you're dead tired and can't move fast. Karin could one time maximize your speed output to its maximum possible limit, so the fastest you've ever been is the speed that you're able to achieve for a brief time. This applies to physical strength as well, or attacks. If Ichigo had no energy left to use a strong attack, she could touch him and maximize his energy output for one Getsuga. Karin is boisterous and more active than her sister Yuzu. Karin has high spirit energy for a human compared to Yuzu as well, so I think the maximizing part of it was a good choice. Karin is also talented at soccer and she seems to like the striker position, so this shrift would allow her to strengthen her physical power, dexterity, or accuracy when kicking. For Yuzu, we have M, the Minimize. The user can minimize anything to its minimum potential, making it so that things reach the lowest of their abilities. Unlike reducing power, it just reduces something to its minimum level. This may or may not be at a level of 0, it just depends on what the floor is. It depends on what the minimum is for whatever she touches. The concept applies like Karin. She could reduce something's speed to its minimum by touching it. This applies to strength and even weight, allowing things to become essentially weightless. Yuzu was the opposite of Karin. She doesn't have the same spiritual awareness as Karin, so I thought minimizing works as a shrift for her and aligns with her more demure personality. Plus, minimizing has great day-to-day usages as well, and like the maximum, she can turn it on and off. And finally, we have Ichigo Kurosaki, and for him, I chose K, the King. Ichigo is all-powerful. This shrift gives Ichigo power over himself. His power is also the only shrift that is passive, and this is due to how the power is controlled and works. Ichigo can make his existence ineffable and defiant of all laws and logic. Ichigo has control on all absolute levels of his body, structure, origin, conclusion, and many more. With absolute control over himself, Ichigo can essentially overcome whatever he faces if he desires to. If he loses heart or falls to despair, his powers will weaken or turn off. Any ability used on him, he would initially resist it, and then later to finally subjugate it. An example would be, let's say Ichigo got into a fight against Yuha again, or Ichibei. He would initially resist their abilities, and then later outright negate it. His concepts would be immune to Ichibei's power. No power lossage or power restructuring. Ichigo's future would become immutable while fighting Yuha and the Almighty. The Almighty would never be able to make Ichigo's powers its own or change his future. Fate manipulation or even biological manipulation such as the death dealing or Ashisogi Jizo's poisons would be negated. Ichigo is the Omega Force, the end where all things go to die. Omega would also be a good alternate letter for this shrift. If anyone was watching Bleach for 2 arcs or reading it, you can see where I got the idea of this from. Ichigo is the king, plain and simple. He's the king of his own inner world, and this was reflected in White's speech. Ichigo's entire story is about overcoming grief and despair caused by death or the fear of impending death through courage and control of one's self. No matter who was in front of Ichigo, he would persevere to the end, and he eventually overcame beings like Yuha and Aizen despite their godly powers. The only real exception to this is Kugo Ginjo and the Fullbringers, who were able to break Ichigo through mind games. His ability to overcome was always dependent on Ichigo's own personal will, so I think Ichigo's shrift should reflect these concepts, especially in the only real weakness it has. Not to mention, he is a true Soul King candidate and is deserving of such a power in my eyes. Excuse the look, guys. I just wanted to say thank you for watching, thank you for sticking around, and please like, subscribe, help me get to that 1K mark. I appreciate everyone. I have enjoyed all the interaction I've gotten with you guys. It's been such an interesting journey going from 2 subscribers for like a month, and then here I am less than a year later about to break 1K. Thank you so much. Y'all have a good day. Bye.